but it's less about the dreaming and more about the doing. Well, hey there. Welcome to the very first episode of She's Equipped. I'm your host, Jennifer Allwood, and I am so excited that you are here on this brand new show with me. I feel nervous, which is dumb because I've, recorded over 700 podcasts in the last 7 years, but this is new and it's a new season and God's doing a new thing. And so I'm really, really glad that you're here. So I am going to be launching this brand new show with 3 episodes today. There's some strategy in there, I'll be real honest. But today, Tuesday, there are going to be 3 episodes. I hope you'll listen to all 3 of them. They'll be shortish because I really believe that when I'm dealing with busy women who are already, in business, already have a business going, you just don't have tons and tons of time to sit down and watch a 45-minute or hour-long episode. So it's going to be shortish. And then I'm going to have an episode every single day this week. Next week, we're going to start our regular Tuesday and Thursday schedule. So if you were used to listening on Mondays and Wednesdays for the Jennifer Allwood Show, just know that She's Equipped is new. It's different. It's going to be different content. It's going to be a different layout. Everything's new about it. So this is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Make sure that you hit follow so that you will always be notified of a new episode. Okay. So, if you listened to the Jennifer Allwood Show, and again, there were over 700 episodes in the last 7 years, you know that season that I was in, I was really called to helping women kind of get started. I really felt during that entire season that I was supposed to be really coaching, encouraging, exhorting, because my gifting, if you know anything about spiritual giftings, is the gift of exhortation. So like what God has gifted me at is helping other women to see what's possible. And so for the last 7 years, I've been working with women who were at the very, very beginning stages. I have been encouraging women to start, encouraging them to make a leap, encouraging them to leave their 9 to 5 and go all in, with what God has for them next. I've been encouraging women to use their talents on this side of heaven. I'll still be doing that, by the way. And I've really tried hard to show women like, this is what is possible. This is what is possible for me. Therefore, this is what's possible for you, because, the Bible says that God is no respecter of persons, which means what he has done for me and my business and my family, he can absolutely do for you as well. But here's the thing. God has been stirring something new in me. And it started almost 2 years ago in October of 2023. But let me just say just a couple of things before I tell you this story is that one of the best things that happened to online business was 2020. Okay. It was COVID. It was everybody being stuck at home. There were so many awful and horrific things about that season of life. I mean, sometimes I'll look back on like my Facebook memories from, spring of 2020, and I feel so triggered. I feel so like antsy just even looking at, memories on social media of what I was posting during the time and just how awful of a time it was for our country and the world in general, right? But, as God does, he takes things that are meant for evil and he does something good with it. And so one of the good things that came out of 2020 is that we were all home, right? Most of us homeschooling our kids at home suddenly. And we all wanted to stay home. And so it was a season where women got really excited about new possibilities of how they could make money online, of how they could work, their 9 to 5 from home and also start their side business and their side gig and all of those things. And so it was a really great time for a couple of years for the online business days. But then I started to notice a shift in things in October of 2023. So almost 2 years ago. And God was really showing to me, Jen, there's a shift happening in the online business space right now. I had told my team that I was seeing it. I had talked to my husband that I was seeing it. And I was praying about it. And I was praying about the things that I was doing that they just weren't coming as easy. Suddenly, it was as though things that used to be light felt heavy. It was as if suddenly the things that I barely had to work for, and I say that, I mean, of course I had to work for them, but sometimes you're just in like this, you're in this season of ease and everything just kind of comes, easily. And then you go through other seasons where things are tougher, right? And it's biblical. I mean, Ecclesiastes talks about seasons. And so, there were things happening that just, I was like, this is interesting because it no longer feels like what it used to. And so I can remember one time praying about this. I was literally walking through my garage. I've told a couple of, my trusted, closest business friends this story many times that I was walking through my garage and I was praying about the business, praying about the direction of the business, praying about all the things. And I asked the Lord, Lord, has your favor on me lifted? Because I was feeling unsatisfied, like, what's the word? I mean, I think sometimes God will allow us to feel like a discontentment. And I think that so often we have been taught that you're to be content in all things, but there is a holy discontentment that God often uses to shift and pivot us. So I was like, Lord, has your favor on me lifted? And I specifically heard the Holy Spirit say, as though God was walking straight through the garage with me, no, my favor hasn't lifted, but your angle has to change. And I was like, your angle has to change? What does that mean your angle has to change? And how many of you know that sometimes when you hear from heaven, it's not super specific. It's not like super obvious. It's like there's still a mystery there, and which is, describes God completely, right? So your angle has to change. And I'm thinking to myself, what on earth is your angle have to change? Like, what does that mean? There were no specifics. So I wrestled with that for, going on almost 2 years now. And over the past year in particular, I've really had God confirm to me that a shift was coming for me, that a shift was definitely coming. And so this last spring, I invested in like a coaching intensive, a couple of days out of town with my director of ops. And, the truth is, if you are a coach, I hope that even coaches need coached. Like, I hope that you understand that the very industry that you are in, that you'd better be also like partaking in that. Okay. You can't really convince other people to get coached if you yourself are willing to be coached. All right. And so I went and had some coaching because in my head, I'm like, what am I not seeing? I know I have roadblocks. Here's what I know about all of my years of coaching in the online space. A lot of times I'll have women come into my coaching and, I'll be like, well, have you ever thought of this? Or, well, what about that? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? And it's because we all have our own blind spots. We just do. And so it's so helpful just to have somebody else like take a peek back behind the curtain of your business and go, well, Jen, duh, like this. And so I did the 2 days of coaching, and it became really obvious during that 2 days that the women that I feel like I'm called to in this season today are already women who have started a business. It's no longer the dreamers. They have already begun. They're already making money. They're already doing the thing, and now they just want to grow and they just want to scale. And so these are the women that don't need convinced. About how great being an entrepreneur is. These women already know. Does it have plenty of its, downsides? Well, of course, but so does everything else, right? And so these are women who don't need convinced that owning your own business is one of the only ways you're going to get time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom on this side of heaven as a job. I mean, are there other things you could do? Perhaps, but if you're looking for freedom, in terms of being able to work when you want, from wherever you want, and make as little or as much as you want, entrepreneurship meets all of those things, right? So, in this new season, I know that I'm called to helping that girl who's ready to build and scale. She's already started. I don't have to convince her anymore. And there's such a different mindset with the women who have begun versus the women who are still trying to start. There's such a different mindset between the women who are ready to scale. And by the way, scaling doesn't mean going from your first 6 figures to your first 7 figures. Scaling can be, okay, you've made 50 grand and, over the course of the last couple of years, and now you're really ready to figure out how to double down on this. And so because the women that are starting are so different than the women that are scaling, that's why there was like a new show necessary. That's why we had to just change everything because in this new season and the women that I'm working with, which is, most of the women I have been working with, by the way, for the last year or so, but it's less about the dreaming and more about the doing. It's working with the women who already understand that you can think things to death. You can think things to death. You can turn a good idea or a bad idea, like you can kill it with your overthinking. And so I want to work with the women who are really wanting to do, who understand that it's not just listening to Jen that changes their business, which changes their life. It's actually like applying and doing some of the things that have been taught and have actually been laid out. It's working with the women who are willing to come out of their prayer closet and actually do something. And I say that with like all respect, but there is like an epidemic of women who say with, out of one side of their mouth that they want the freedom that having a business provides, but yet they aren't willing to actually get up and do. It's this spirit of hand wringing. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Guess what? Entrepreneurship is doing even when you don't know. Like 90% of the time, this is what entrepreneurship is. You're a business owner, you're never going to know. Listen, it even for the people still working for someone else, you don't know either. You just think that you do because you've attached yourself to someone who's giving you perceived safety. On this side of heaven, there are very few things that we are actually going to like know in our knower before we do them, whether or not it's going to work. And so I really want to be working with the women who are ready to just stop praying about it because sometimes, can I just be real honest with you, ladies? Sometimes we use prayer as an excuse. We use waiting on God as an excuse. And I'll arm wrestle you on this one because I've done it. Okay. And I know so many of the women I've coached have too, if we're just being real honest. It's sometimes easier to say, I'm just waiting on God. Well, what are you waiting on exactly? Are you waiting for that bush to actually start burning? Are you waiting for that donkey to start talking? I mean, I guess God can still do that. But sometimes we've got to stop praying about a thing and actually start doing a thing and believe that the God of the heaven and the earth, the God who loves you and counts every hair on your head, the God that calls you beloved and calls you friend. If you are making knuckleheaded decisions and you've come out of your prayer closet and you're like, Lord, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Stop me if I am, being an idiot. You have permission to reroute, etc. Like we have to start doing and trust that the God of heaven and earth will reroute you if that's necessary. But it's the overthinking of the thing that's killing the dreams, and it's the just learning more and you've got 10 coaches and you haven't ever actually like started and done. It's hard to work with, friends. It really really is. There's just such a different mindset with trying to convince someone to start than trying to show someone how to scale. Okay. And so this is again why the new show was necessary and why I'm so excited about this next season for me. And so here's the truth. When you're starting, it can be real sexy, right? There's a scrappiness that you have to have. You're putting in some late nights, you're DIYing a whole bunch of your business, you're doing all the things by yourself. Your family and friends are really excited to support you because it's new, it's shiny, it's in the beginning. But then you get over to where, okay, you've already started, the starting's past now, and now we're scaling, and scaling requires a whole new thing. Scaling is going to require systems. It's going to require you lead. It's going to require having a willingness to give up some control, to allow other people, to work with you and for you. You can't carry a scaling business on the same shoulders that carried your startup business. You just can't. You just absolutely can't. And so, when you're in that startup mode, I know it can feel almost like safe to stay there. And it feels much more vulnerable when you really believe and are intentional about growing the thing. When you're in the very startup stages, the mindset is that you have to do all the things and that no one can do it as good as you, and you don't want to delegate because you fear like giving up the control and the quality and all those things. It's just a different season. When you decide you're ready to grow, you're going to have to give up some of those things. You're going to have to lay down some of the things that you are really still gripping to as a starter. And so I started being an entrepreneur back in the year 1999, started my painting company in Kansas City in the year 2000. And back when I started my painting business, I had to do it all in those, in that first little amount of time because I was brand new to it. I never intended to be a business owner. I never intended to be an entrepreneur. So I was the one who was out bidding every job, faxing, that's right, because we were still faxing then, faxing every estimate, picking out every paint color, going to the paint store, picking up every gallon of paint, going to every job and actually doing the painting and setting up the ladders and setting up the scaffolding until like 10 minutes after I started that business and we got pregnant with our oldest son, Noah Allwood. And so very quickly, I was like, whoa, okay, didn't see that timing coming, Lord. Has anybody else gone through one of those seasons where you're like, okay, we this was looking like it was gonna be just fine. What you doing, God? What you doing, God? So I'm pregnant, and I kept painting until I was 8 months pregnant. I had a little stumble on a ladder when I was 8 months pregnant with Noah, and it scared me because I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't keep getting up onto these 12-foot bathroom walls, which is what I was doing that day. I missed a step coming down the ladder, and I was like, this is dumb. I'm 8 months pregnant, and I can't put myself and my baby in jeopardy. So I called my sister-in-law, and I'm like, will you come to work for me? Will you help me, finish out this pregnancy? And then I was put on bed rest. Like God knew what he was doing. God knew what he was doing. Because otherwise I would have continued doing it all my own self. But I had to get some help. And so since I had to get some help kind of finishing out some jobs for the rest of my pregnancy, then all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is actually stinking brilliant. She actually does a better job painting than I do. I actually like being home and the one like on the phone and talking. And suddenly I had hired someone and I didn't even really realize that's what I'd done. And, I figured it out. And eventually when I shut down my painting company in 2017, I had 8 women painting for me at the time. And so, figuring out how to delegate and get help, like that is trusting God to sustain what he has called you to build on this side of heaven. That is believing that you can let go of some of the reins. And I've had to then carry that through in my coaching business. And, I was eventually coaching women on how they could become a painter, how they could do cabinet painting and furniture painting. And I had to get a VA because there was so much that I didn't know how to do in the online space. I had to like hire help. I didn't realize what a sticking point this is for so many women. But then you get over to where you're coaching in the capacity that I am today, and I'm writing a book, and there's e-commerce, and I've got, a software that we've created, an all-in-one marketing platform. And so there's even more help that's needed. And if you are really interested in growing and scaling, I'm telling you, you're going to have to just have a different mindset than you did when you started. All right. So if you're anxious and excited to expand, to grow, to scale, you're in the right place. You are totally in the right place. And if that's you, I also want to tell you about a live event that I'm hosting. And so this is my first live event virtually that I've done in a long, long time. It's called Money, Faith, and Momentum. Goodness, did I just stumble on momentum? It's a virtual summit. And it's going to take some of the things that I've talked about on this podcast episode, and we're going to go much, much deeper on scaling and growing. And so we're going to talk about practical tools and hard work and heart work and the things we're going to have to let go of in this next season. So if you go to jenniferallwood.com/virtual event, you can grab a ticket right now and join me live. This is going to be in October, one day virtual event. Go to jenniferallwood.com/virtual event, and I will plan on seeing you there. Friend, thank you so much for being here with me today and on this journey with me. I know some of you have been with me since the very beginning when I started coaching, 10 years ago and started doing webinars and started teaching people. And I don't ever want you to think I don't see you and don't appreciate you, because I do. And you've gone with me through multiple seasons of, trying to raise kids and adopting a 4th child, and a husband having a horrible accident and marrying kids off. And you've gone through so many seasons with me when I was teaching people how to paint, and then I was teaching painters, and then I was life coaching, and then the business coaching has been around for a long, long time. But I just want you to know I love and appreciate you. And I'm glad that you're here. And I'm super excited about this next season for both me and for you. And so don't forget to go grab a ticket at jenniferallwood.com/virtual event. And I'll plan on seeing you there and on the next episode today. Thanks. Easton. Are we still doing the bloopers on She's Equipped? Because how did I trip over the word momentum?